Hello and welcome to It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Laura Jones, who is Executive Vice President of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Okay, let's talk about the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. Kind of in limbo right now. Can you explain what's happening?
Well, the program that was in place is expired, and so that ended at the end of September. And of course, October 1st has come and gone, and we don't know yet what's happening with rent assistance. So there have been some indications from the finance minister, the federal finance minister, and the provincial finance minister that something will replace it, but we don't know what that something is yet.
So what's the impact? As you said, we're almost, a full week into this month. Rents are there that need to be paid. How devastating is this for businesses not to have anything in place right now?
It's pretty tough. I mean, rent is one of two major expenses that businesses have to cope with, the other one being wages. And so not having something in place for this is really difficult, and it's really uncertain, which is very challenging.
So in terms of...
I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it any longer.
So in terms of, what you're hearing out there, you got any insight on what and when we can see something actually come to fruition here?
Well, in the past, what's happened is we've had rent relief come just before the end of the month, an extension of the existing program. I think it may be taking a little bit longer this time because my guess is that they're looking at, designing something new. That's the hope anyway. Of course, you can't take hope to the bank, but based on some of the comments that have been made, it certainly seems like there might be something in the work. So, we're very hopeful we'll see something announced this week.
Okay, and from your perspective, the CFIB perspective, what is it that you would like to see in a rent assistance program?
Okay, so three really important things. The first is that that landlords be taken out of the equation so that the relief go directly to the commercial tenant. And I think that will be better for landlords, will be certainly better for the commercial tenants, and be easier to administer. So that's really critical. The second thing that's critical is that we have something that kind of runs at least through the fall and takes us into next year. This month by month, that is really, really challenging for business owners, not knowing whether there's going to be rent relief, not knowing what it looks like. Let's get something kind of in place. And the third thing is that there was this incredible unfairness baked into the first program that's been in place for 6 months. And that is that you are eligible, you get the help if your landlord applies, and you don't get the help if your landlord doesn't, whether or not you qualify based on the revenue loss. And I think it would be fair to give a top up to those businesses that have been shut out of rent relief because they've accumulated a lot of debt in order to cope with this. And they just haven't had, it's not a level playing field. They haven't had the same help that some other commercial tenants have had. So those are the three key things we're looking for.
Okay, so in recent days, we've heard the Prime Minister talk about, a second wave, that we're in it. We've seen the numbers spike in Quebec and in Ontario, especially.
Mm-hmm.
How bad will it be for small business owners across the country if indeed we go back to some sort of more restrictions out there or lockdown?
Well, the majority of business owners are telling us that they won't easily survive a second wave without some additional government assistance. And of course, it's very problematic for the economy and for our country if significant numbers of small businesses don't make it through to recovery, because these businesses provide jobs and are a vital part of our communities. So it's pretty important to get this right. And I think it's also pretty important with second wave to keep as much open as is reasonably and safely possible to do. I mean, it's always a balancing act with those things, but we learned a lot from the first wave about how to do certain things safely. And it's important that people, that we concentrate on targeting, being a little more focused on where the risks are, rather than this kind of broad-based blanket closure approach, because small businesses just can't survive that.
Yeah, and speaking of survival, what are your numbers showing, first of all, of how many businesses so far have not survived these, struggling and challenging 6 months that we've been through?
Yeah, it's difficult to know how many businesses, there's a bit of a lag in the data, how many businesses haven't survived. But we've all seen, of course, the closure, the for lease signs on businesses, including established businesses that have surprised some, I think. What we do know, based on our survey data, is we've got about 1 in 7 who are at serious risk of permanent closure right now, based on current conditions. And that would be on top of what we've already seen. And of course, for some sectors, it's much higher. So if you look at restaurants, for example, it's 1 in 3 at risk of permanent closure right now. So, those numbers, we're hoping to move the dial on those numbers and improve that picture. But that's the picture that we have right now.
Okay, super. Thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that was Laura Jones, who is Executive Vice President of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. This has been It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.